guys, I have a confession. I didn't learn to ride a bike until I was 10 years old, and I know how embarrassing that sounds, but hear me out. It's not my fault. I am simply a victim of circumstance. Circumstances that I will reveal to you after you subscribe. So go take care of that and then come right back. You good? Alright, let's go. Now, the reason I couldn't ride my bike until I was 10 is because I was scared of riding a bike, but I was only scared because of circumstances. And those circumstances were a lake and that I could not swim. Which I still can't swim, but that's a story for another day.
That nigga 40 and still can't swim?
Don't gel. But growing up, I lived at the top of a hill. And at the bottom of this hill was this ginormous lake. And I personally do not rock with large bodies of water. So I had built up a fear that one day I was going to roll down this hill and then just land inside the lake and croak. Which I know what you're thinking. That's dumb. But you're wrong. And that's actually a very smart and rational fear to have. Stop hating. But as an extension to this fear, I was also deathly afraid of riding a bike down this hill. Because if I ride a bike down a hill and I can't stop, then I'm dead in that lake for sure. Because I can't swim. But that's about how I never learned how to ride a bike. This is about how I learned how to ride a bike after I had turned 10 years old. So it was the day after my birthday, and I just got a bike from my mom. And I'm thinking, thank you, but I'm never going to use this. And I had a neighbor, his name was Bose, and he knew I couldn't ride a bike, and he knew I got a bike for my birthday, which I guess to him sounded like free bike. So the day after my birthday, this nigga, he comes up to me and asks me to ride my bike. And I, being a gentleman, said yes. And that was stupid of me, because my bike got stolen. Not like actually stolen, but he didn't return it for like a week after that. And I didn't go get it either, because I didn't really care for it. But I knew eventually my mom was going to ask me where my bike was at. And I can't be like, oh, I gave it away, because then I'm dead. So after about a week of not seeing my bike, I decided to go over to his house and ask for it back. So I go to his house, I knock on the door, and his dad answers the door. I'm like, hey, your son borrowed my bike, and I kind of need it back. And this man looked me dead in my optic spams and said, borrowed? He told me you let him have it. I almost laughed, but it wasn't funny. So he calls his son out to the door. And then I'm chopping it up with this dude. I'm like, yeah, bro, I need my bike back. And he's asking me questions like, why do I need it back? Did I learn how to ride a bike? And you know that feeling, like when you give somebody your charger, and then when you ask for it back, they have the audacity to ask you a percentage you're on? That's how I was feeling at the time, and I was not going for it. But this Bose kid, he's also like twice my size at this age. I was 10, and I think bro was around 14 years old. So in a fair one, I was going to get whacked. And I was never about to get beat up over a bike. So I went and got my mother, and she came out and got my bike back for me. But this Bose kid was not having it. Even though it wasn't his bike, he seemed upset because I got my bike back. And my mom was also not having it because she was mad at me for giving it away in the first place. And that's my bad. But that's not the point. The point is, Bose was mad. And he came over to my door like a week after that week, and he asked to borrow it again. Now, I'm not dumb. At least not twice. And I was not about to get my bike stolen a second time. So I said no. And I felt like the man. Until this dude starts going off on me for not wanting to give him my bike. He's like, bro, you can't even ride it. What do you need it for? What do I need it for? Good question. But you still can't have it. So then he starts threatening violence. And like I said, I'm not getting beat up over a bike. And y'all gonna think I'm so pussy, but I called my mom a second time and she had it taken care of. But keep in mind, I was a literal child. This man was in his teens, so it was only fair to bring out an adult. But after he came over the second time, I decided I have to learn how to ride a bike, because eventually it's gonna catch up to me. And I'm not ready for that. But I was still scared of the lake that was at the bottom of the hill. So I went to go practice somewhere else. Somewhere that wasn't my house. Somewhere that was Bose's house. Which I guess to Bose made it seem like I was flexing my bike in front of his crib. Which I was. But yeah, I'm outside and I'm riding. And I'm not doing good at all. I have no teacher with me. It's just me and my 10-year-old mind trying to figure out how to ride a bike. And looking back, it's very simple to learn how to ride a bike. You just pedal and stay balanced. That's really all there is to it. But I was not getting that. So I was out there struggling. And of course, Bose saw this happening and decided not to help me. For good reason, I'm sure. And this went on for a few days. I didn't get it the first day. I didn't get it the second day. I didn't even get it the first week. But I kept trying because, I'm that nigga. And that nigga gonna do what that nigga gotta get done. But yeah, I kept trying. And eventually, I made a breakthrough. I figured out that when you stand up, it's easier to balance. And I immediately got cocky. I started riding that bitch around everywhere. And if you recall from earlier, everywhere includes that lake. So I stopped practicing in front of Bose's house and I went to practice in front of my house. My house is where the lake is. So you can imagine what happens next. Basically, I was on the bike and I started riding down the hill. Not on purpose, of course, because I know my limits, and that was one of them. And I am staring death in the face. I know in my head, if I hit this lake, I'm not coming back up. And Bo's gonna steal my bike. But once I'm going down the hill, there's really nowhere else to go but that lake. It's not like I can swerve out the way. The whole thing is the fucking lake. So my only option was to jump off of the bike. But I took too long to jump off of the bike, and I hesitated. And I felt the water hitting the tires on the bike and on my legs. And it wasn't until then that I decided to jump off. So basically my options were to either jump off of the bike or drown in the lake, and I said fuck it and chose both. So there I was in 2-foot deep water, flailing around thinking I'm about to die. I was out here screaming for help for a solid 20-30 seconds until Bose's dad, who was about to start fishing, heard me and came to pick me up out of the water. But I'm not thinking rationally, so I'm thinking he's about to come here to push me deeper into the water because I stole my bike back from his son. So he comes to help and I'm kicking and screaming at him too. And bro had to grapple me and pick me up and basically told me to shut the fuck up. Bro got me out of the lake and I was still crying like a little bitch. But at this point I wasn't concerned about, my life. I was more concerned that I lost my bike because that hoe was gone in that lake and I had just learned how to ride it. At least that's what I was told. I asked him to go back in the water and get my bike and he told me no, it's probably too deep in there now. So I had to walk home up that hill bikeless and I got the most violent ass whooping of my life. And then a few weeks later, Bo's got a new bike. Granted, it didn't look like mine, but if I was told that his dad painted my bike to make it look like a new bike, I would not be surprised. Moral of the story is, bikes are evil and dumb, and that's why we have cars anyway. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Today's like goal is 10 for my birthday. So if you're one of those first 10 likes, then congratulations. Here's a brand new bike. Don't spend it all in one place. With that being said, make sure you guys go outside, drink plenty of water, and have a nice day.